grid is a structure, usually two-dimensional, made up of a series of intersecting straight, vertical, horizontal, and angular or curved guidelines used to structure content. The grid serves as an armature on which a designer can organize graphic elements, images, glyphs, paragraphs, text, in a rational, easy-to-absorb manner. A grid can be used to organize graphic elements in relation to a page, in relation to other graphic elements on the page, or relation to other parts of the same graphic element or shape. So let's go ahead and show you how a grid system works when creating a document. Let's go ahead and create a new document. We can do this one of three ways. We can either click Document here, File, New Document. I'm just going to use the shortcut Command N to create a new document. We'll go ahead and say we're designing a multi-page magazine layout. So we'll say it's 5 pages. Start page number 1, facing pages, fine. We're going to leave primary text frame off. Number of columns, let's go ahead and say we want a 4-column grid. We'll leave our margins the same for now and go ahead and click OK. So the first thing I'm going to do on my layers panel, I'm going to go ahead and create several layers here. My blue layer usually I have for my images. I'm just going to rename this images. My red layer I usually use for my text. Layer 3, I'm going to go ahead and name this 6-column grid. Right now I have a 4-column grid, but I may want to work with a 6-column grid as well. So I'm going to go ahead and make one on a layer that I can turn on and off. Layer 4, I'm going to name it Page Furniture. This is where I'm going to put my headers, my footers, all my extra stuff that's going to go throughout my document. And if at any time I don't like this color for the layer, light blue, I can change it to anything that I like. But we'll go ahead and stick with blue for now. I'm going to go ahead and grab my rectangular frame tool and I'm going to just draw a frame right here. This is where my pictures are going to go. Let's say I want pictures along the bottom. So I'm just going to select this frame layer. By holding the Option, it gives me the duplicate tool, and holding Shift, I can constrain it straight across. I'm just going to duplicate these guys, make 4 of them. Let's say that's where I want my images. Now I'm going to grab my text layer. I'm going to make some frames where I'm going to want my text. Same thing, I'm going to grab my selection tool, Option to get my duplicate tool, Shift to constrain. I'm going to drag it straight across. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make myself a 6-column grid to use just in case I need. So the first thing I do is I select my layer. I go out to Layout, Create Guides. In here I can create as many columns or rows that I want. Let's go ahead, this is going to be a 6-column grid, so we'll put in 6 columns, and I'm going to go ahead and make sure Preview is checked and hit Tab so I can see what I'm working with. Rows, let's go ahead and put 6 rows as well, because we're going to need some rows in there. As you can see, I'm starting to make a grid system here that I'm going to follow. I want to make sure that my grid system is relevant to my margins and not my page. Okay, that's what my 6-column grid looks like. And I'm going to go ahead and click OK. Now because it's on this 6-column grid layer, I can turn it off at any time. Now let's go back into our images, and let's say we wanted a row of images along the top, but we want 6 images. Our grid is going to provide a very organized layout for us. To turn these red boxes or frames into text boxes, I have to click on my type tool and click inside of it. I'm going to go ahead and fill these boxes with placeholder text. Now I have these boxes filled with text. I'm just going to go ahead and select some text here, and I'm going to make a paragraph style really quick. Just a default new paragraph style. I'm going to name it Body. I'm not going to really change anything. Edit, select all, body. Okay, so I have applied this body paragraph style to my text. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to organize this text so it looks a little bit more classy. So what I want to do is I want to snap this text to a baseline grid. So I'm going to go up to View, Extras, Guides and Grids, Show Baseline Grid. If I zoom in here a little bit, you're going to see that it has added lines, made it look like a lined sheet of paper. So what I want to do is I want to make sure that my text runs along this baseline grid and it looks nice and organized. The easiest way to do that is by adjusting or editing your paragraph styles. So I'm going to right click on here, go to Edit Body, Indents and Spacing. And you can see that my text, or at least my paragraph style, is not set up to align to any kind of grid. So this align to grid, I'm just going to go ahead and select all lines because I'd like it all to align to the grid. Click on preview, click OK. Now as you can see, all of my text is aligned and sits nicely upon this grid. However, is this exactly what the look that I want? Not really. I have a bunch of overset text here and it looks like it's almost double spaced. And the reason for this is because of the preferences of the baseline grid. So let's adjust the baseline grid preferences. We're going to go in Design, Preferences, Grids. And you will see in here that I can adjust my baseline grid preferences. This blue color, it's a little bit too dominating for me and sometimes can hurt my eyes. So I'm going to go ahead and select something like a light gray. And then what I'm going to do is notice right here that my baseline grid has an increment every 12 points and my font is also 12 points. If I select on my text, you can see that my font is at 12 points. If I go back into my grids, so the baseline grid is shoving things onto the next line because it's just too big. You always want your baseline grid increments at least 3 points larger than your font. If I change this to 15 points, I'm going to hit tab because I'm not quite finished. And we also want these grids to go to the margin and not the edge of the page. Relative to top of margin. Light blue. Again, we want to change this to a light gray. Click OK. Now you're going to see that it snaps to this grid nicely from column to column. If I double click my hand tool, we can see the whole document. And of course, we can use our preview mode, or W, which is the shortcut, to get rid of all of our guides and show us exactly what our document's going to look like. So that's the purposes of grids. Now I have 6 photographs up here, images or content boxes up here, and 4 down here, and it looks really nice and professional. And of course, this is actually a pretty boring layout, but for illustration purposes, you get the idea.